Most houses look their best on the day the scaffolding comes down. The render is flawless. The timber is one uniform shade. The gravel has never been walked on. And from that morning forward, the house begins a slow argument with the weather that it will eventually lose. But there is another way to build a facade. One where rain is not the enemy, where sun does not fade the surface so much as finish it, where the first hairline crack in the plaster is not a defect. It is the house settling into itself. That is the quiet heart of Japandi exteriors. Japanese patience meeting Scandinavian restraint in materials chosen not for how they photograph on day 1, but for how they will look in year 10. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are walking through 26 exterior and facade ideas built around a single principle. Choose surfaces that improve with time. Arrange them so the light does half the work, and leave enough silence in the composition for the seasons to be visible. We will move through 4 chapters: materials and the patina they earn, form and roof lines that create stillness, light and shadow as a building material of its own, and finally, the threshold. That short walk from gate to door where a house decides how it greets you. No trend chasing here. Just surfaces that get better while you sleep. Chapter 1. Material and patina. Everything in this section was selected for one reason. It changes, and it changes well. Cedar burned until the surface turns to carbon has a depth that no stain can imitate. In traditional yakisugi, the char is brushed back and oiled, leaving a facade that reads almost black in overcast light and silver brown when the sun catches the grain. Up close, the wood looks like alligator hide, all fine cracked geometry. The reason it works on a modern facade is contrast. That matte, light-absorbing black makes every plant in front of it look greener, and every brass or oak detail look warmer. It is a backdrop first and a finish second. Run your palm across a hand-troweled lime plaster wall, and you can feel where the trowel lifted. That slight unevenness is the whole point. Lime moves with the wall, breathes with the seasons, and takes on faint water shadows under the eaves after a storm that vanish by afternoon. Painted render tries to look new forever and fails. Lime never claimed to be new. In a warm grayish or bone white, it gives a large facade a softness that flat paint simply cannot hold. Where most homes hide their base behind a row of shrubs, this approach makes the base the strongest line in the composition. Board-formed concrete carries the grain and knots of the timber it was poured against. So a supposedly industrial material arrives already wearing wood. Keep it to roughly waist height, run it unbroken across the whole front, and let the lighter cladding sit above. The house gains a visual anchor, and the eye reads the upper volume as lighter than it really is. Give a copper entry canopy about 2 years, and it stops being copper-colored. First, a deep bronze, then a dark chocolate, then eventually the soft green verdigris that most people associate with old churches. There is no maintenance schedule to keep because the aging is the design. One small copper element above a door does more for a restrained facade than an entire feature wall, because it changes while everything around it stays still. What if the cladding was never meant to hold one color at all? Untreated larch weathers unevenly by design. The north face stays warmer and browner, the south and west faces silver first, and the fascia under a deep eave keeps its honey tone for years. On a Japandi house, that gradient becomes a quiet record of orientation. The house tells you where the weather comes from without a single sign. Stone at the base, but bush-hammered rather than polished. Basalt worked with a hammered finish loses its shine and gains a matte texture that catches low sun in thousands of tiny points. Set as a plinth beneath timber cladding, it takes the splashback from rain and never shows it. Polished stone announces a budget. Hammered stone just feels old and calm, which is a much harder thing to buy. A vertical cedar batten screen set in front of glazing turns a large window from a hole in the wall into a texture. From the street, the battens read as a continuous rhythm, so the facade stays intact. From inside, they slice the view into vertical strips of garden. And through the day, the shadows they throw on the floor rotate like a sundial, which is a kind of decoration that costs nothing to run. There is something grounding about rammed earth, and it is not just the color. The horizontal sediment lines make the wall look geological, as if it was cut from a cliff rather than built on site. Used as a single accent volume beside a lighter-clad wing, it brings warmth to an otherwise cool palette of gray, black, and glass. Set it where afternoon sun rakes across it, because the lines only really appear at a low angle. That takes care of the surfaces. Now for the shapes they wrap around, because in Japandi exteriors, the roof does more talking than the walls. A mono-pitch roof with a fascia trimmed as thin as possible does something curious to a house. The single sloping plane gives direction, and the near invisible edge stops the roof from looking like a hat sitting on a box. Instead of a heavy cap, you get a clean diagonal against the sky. Keep the gutter concealed, and the illusion holds completely from the street. Extend the eave out to roughly 6 feet, and the facade gains a horizontal band of shadow that no paint color could match. That deep overhang shades the glazing through the hottest part of the day, keeps rain off the timber below, and creates a sheltered zone along the front of the house, where you can actually stand during a downpour. Half the calm in a Japandi exterior comes from this one move, because shade reads as depth. Where a long, unbroken wall would feel like a barrier, stepping the massing forward and back by even a couple of feet breaks the front into 2 quieter volumes, one recessed, one advanced. The recess collects shadow and reads darker, so the house appears narrower and more considered from the curb, even when the footprint has not changed at all. Why scatter 4 separate windows across a wall when one horizontal band can do the work? A ribbon window, running the width of a room, keeps the wall reading as a single surface, gives the interior an even wash of daylight rather than 4 bright patches, and frames the landscape like a long panoramic photograph. From outside, it draws a strong level line that makes the whole facade feel settled. Garage doors, but with the door effectively erased, cladding the door in the same vertical timber. Battens as the adjacent fence, with the same spacing and the same shadow gaps, lets a 2-car garage disappear into the boundary. Nothing wrecks a serene facade faster than a large panel that announces itself as automotive. Continuity of material is the fix, and it is almost always cheaper than a feature. Listen to a rain chain during a storm, and you will understand why a downpipe feels like a missed opportunity. A kusaridoi is a hanging chain of small copper cups that guides water from the gutter down into a stone basin below, turning drainage into something you can watch and hear. It gives a house one moment of pure sensory pleasure that only exists in bad weather, which is a very Japanese idea. Which brings us to the layer that costs the least and transforms the most. Not a material at all. Light and the shadows it leaves behind. A shadow gap at the base of a wall is a recess of an inch or two where the cladding meets the ground plane. In daylight, it fills with darkness, and that dark line makes the whole volume above appear to float a fraction above the earth. It is the smallest detail in this video and probably the most powerful. Heaviness disappears, and the house sits on the site rather than being pressed into it. By 4 in the afternoon, a screen of vertical battens stops being a screen and becomes a projector. The low sun pushes stripes of light and shadow across the lime plaster behind it, and those stripes move and lengthen while you watch. Placed on a west-facing wall, this pairing gives you a facade that is plain at noon and richly patterned in the golden hour, all from 2 materials you already have. What if you could see the light, but never the fixture? Linear LEDs tucked into the underside of a deep eave wash down the face of the cladding, revealing every bit of texture in the timber or plaster, while the source stays completely hidden. The house appears to glow from within its own overhang. It also flatters the material choices you spent the most on, which is where a lighting budget tends to earn its keep. One well-placed uplight at the base of a Japanese maple will outperform 6 path lights aimed up through the canopy. It throws the branch structure onto the wall behind as an enormous moving shadow, drawing that changes with the season and disappears in winter. Trees are the only part of a facade that redesign themselves annually. Lighting them is how you get that for free after dark, where a row of glowing bollards would line the path like an airport runway. Recessed step lights do the opposite. Set low into the side of each riser, they light the tread and nothing else. You see the way forward without ever seeing a lamp. The garden beyond stays properly dark, and the house at night reads as a series of quiet, horizontal glows rather than a lit-up display. A shallow, reflecting pool along the front elevation doubles the facade. The water only needs to be a few inches deep to work, and on a still evening, it holds an inverted copy of the roofline, the timber, and the sky. It also does something to sound, softening traffic noise into something closer to background. Position it where the low western sun can skim across the surface, and the whole front of the house lifts. We have covered surface, form, and light. All of it leads to one place. The short walk from the street to the front door, which in Japanese design is treated as a room in its own right. A front gate, but solid rather than open. A full-height timber gate you cannot see through creates a moment of anticipation and, more practically, a small pause between the noise of the street and the quiet of the property. Match the timber to the fence, use the same batten width, and keep the hardware minimal and dark. What you are building is not security. It is a threshold you actually notice crossing. There is a particular pleasure in walking on stepping stones. Tobi-ishi are irregular flat stones set into moss or gravel with deliberate gaps. And because the spacing controls your stride, they slow you down. You look at your feet, then at the garden, then at your feet again. A poured path gets you to the door efficiently. Stepping stones make the arrival part of the experience, and they let planting run right up to the edge. Where a front lawn demands mowing, watering, and constant attention just to look ordinary, a raked gravel court asks for almost nothing and looks composed all year. Fine pale gravel, one or two sculptural specimens such as a cloud-pruned pine, and a clean edge against the paving. In winter, it still reads as intentional, which is more than most lawns manage. Snow, frost, and fallen leaves all sit beautifully on gravel. A covered porch built as a genuine transition zone changes how a house is used. Inspired by the Genkan, this is a sheltered platform deep enough to stand in comfortably with the door open, wide enough for a bench and a place to leave shoes. It keeps the rain off the entry door, protects the threshold timber from weathering, and gives arriving guests somewhere to be that is neither outside nor inside. Ever noticed how a single plant looks better against a plain backdrop than against a busy one? A fence of black bamboo culms provides exactly that. The dark vertical stems create a fine-grained mat wall that makes a maple, a moss mound, or a pale stone lantern read like an object on display. It also softens boundary lines that would otherwise feel hard, and it moves in wind, which no timber fence will ever do. Finally, a low stone basin beside the entry, fed by a slim bamboo spout. The tsukubai was traditionally used for washing hands before entering a tea house. And even without that ritual, the effect survives. Water trickling into stone is a sound that arrives before you reach the door. It is the one element on this list you hear before you see, and it does more to set the mood of an entire property than any amount of architecture. So, 26 ideas and a single thread running through all of them. Every material here was chosen because time improves it. Charred cedar deepens, lime plaster softens, copper turns green. Large silvers unevenly, moss thickens in the gaps between stones, and the maple you uplight tonight will throw a different shadow every year for the next 30. None of that requires a renovation. It only requires choosing surfaces that were never trying to look brand new in the first place. That is the quiet luxury of a Japandi facade. Not the expense of the finishes, but the patience built into them. A house that is still becoming itself long after the builders have gone. If any of these ideas felt like something you could bring home, save this one for when the planning starts. There is more design inspiration on the channel, and we go deeper into these material palettes room by room. Thank you for spending this time here. Go stand outside your own front door for a minute and look at it the way you would look at someone else's.